Food sensitivity testing is one of the most well-known and popular lab tests that we offer, and many patients come in requesting it or inquiring about it because they heard about it on social media, or a colleague or a friend of theirs has done the test and they're like, what should I do with this information? Should I do the test? Is it useful? When is it applicable? I actually find that it's extremely useful, and I usually try to get all my patients at some point to do this sensitivity test, because you want to know if your body's having an immunological response to the proteins in the food that you're eating. And that's just the most simplistic and most direct way of explaining what the test is looking at. It is typically what's called an IgG, an immunoglobulin G assay or assessment. And what it's doing is looking for the specific antibody that occurs when proteins interact with our immune system internally in our digestive tract. It is different than what would be experienced as a reaction on your skin. If you go to an allergist and they do a skin prick, those are different antibodies. That's a different type of reaction. Usually with food sensitivities, and how we sort of loosely distinguish it from food allergies, is that sensitivities tend to have a less acute and less severe degree of reactivity, generally. Now, you can have an acute reaction to a food, and that's usually a different type of antibody, and we'll say that's more leading towards not necessarily an anaphylactic, but more one of those more acute acting, where you have the nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, hives, swelling, all that acute crazy stuff that you hear of when someone's got an allergy. With food sensitivities, what people are noticing is that it may take a little while, it may be hours and sometimes even a couple of days before they have symptoms. Symptoms can be eczema, rashes, brain fog, upset stomach, irregular stools, bloating, and even sometimes other immunological symptoms. I've even seen people have fevers from a food sensitivity. So if this is a great test when you have uncertainty with what is causing your symptoms, but do see some correlation with some digestive issues. Sometimes there's a trigger with certain foods, but it may be hit and miss. That's one of the keynotes, is that people will be like, sometimes I eat this food and it's fine, and other times it really bothers me. So we'll do the IgG analysis, and usually we try to look at over 200 foods, and these are the proteins. And this is something that's a distinction that people need to realize. If someone, and the best example is when someone says, well, I shouldn't have dairy, but I have lactose-free milk, so that's okay, right? And I say, no, that's not okay, because the lactose is a sugar, and typically our immune system is not attacking sugars, it's attacking the protein. So that's not being replaced in lactose-free milk. It still has the casein and whey and other proteins that are consistent in dairy products. So you may not have the same degree of symptoms. Let's say you get very explosive diarrhea with regular milk, but lactose-free milk, you don't get that. Well, that's good, but that doesn't mean that you're not having an immunological reaction a day from now, or hours later, or at a different level. So you may not be having digestive-related symptoms. And so that's where we have a distinction between allergy and sensitivity, and why the sensitivity testing is so important. Because once you have those results, what we do is we go through the elevated foods, borderline foods, and safe foods, and we try not to take away too much, but we do try to highlight very, very highly reactive foods and food groups that seem to be very problematic, that we have multiple hits. So those are things to keep in mind, and I definitely recommend the IgG.